Okay, so you might have guessed from your thought primer questions that we are going to be focused in on freedom here. Liberty. One question we might begin with is this one. What does it mean to be free? You're a thing with freedom. You're a thing with liberties. What does that mean? And I'm going to suggest to you there's four ways we can come at this question. One is by focusing on negative freedoms or negative liberties. These are freedoms from certain actions being taken against us or our property. So for example, I believe that I have a moral claim, perhaps even a legal claim, that I should be free from somebody breaking into my home and taking some number of my possessions without my permission, unless there's a morally justifiable reason for them to do so. Okay, so negative liberties are these freedoms from certain things that we think we can morally justify. On the flip side of that are our positive freedoms. These are not freedoms from things, these are freedoms to things. These are things that we think are morally permissible and that we have a legitimate moral claim to be free to do. So I think, for example, I have the positive liberty of being able to walk around CR's campus during a day when the college is open for business unless there's a morally justifiable reason to prevent me from doing so. Like if I wanted to walk through an area of the campus that's undergoing some dangerous construction, then maybe somebody has a morally justifiable reason for preventing me from exercising my positive freedom to roam around CR's campus. Or perhaps there's some other kind of situation, like the campus has been closed for a private event. That's a more justifiable reason to keep me from walking around on campus. And at the same time as I'm exercising my positive freedom to walk around on campus, I'm also carrying with me my negative liberty, which says I believe I have the freedom to be able to walk around the campus without being harassed by somebody else, without having somebody shout threats in my ears as I walk across campus exercising my positive liberties. A third approach to this question about freedom is to think about it in terms of individuality. When we talk about this, we're talking about the freedom of each of us as individuals to develop and to express our unique usness in public and in private. We're talking about the freedom to be who we are in both public and private spheres, unless that expression of our uniqueness somehow infringes on the negative or positive liberties that others claim to have a moral right to. Okay, so if me expressing my uniqueness is perceived as a threat to somebody else, then perhaps that serves as appropriate moral justification for clamping down on my freedom to express my individuality. And then finally, when we talk about freedom, we're talking about freedom from manipulation. What we mean by that is we believe we have a moral claim to not be used simply as a tool by other people to achieve their own ends unless we consent to be used as that tool. Okay, so when we talk about freedom, we're going to be talking about it from multiple angles and kind of multiple dimensions. I asked you in your thought primer, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most important, how important is it to you to be free? And one way to think about that question and what the numbers should be for you is to think about this question. Well, what's more important or valuable to you than being free? Okay, so if freedom means those things that we were just talking about, what is more important to you that would cause you to surrender some of those freedoms? And typically what people point to is, well, safety. I don't want me and everybody else to be free to just do anything, because then that creates a dangerous world. So I accept speed limits on the highway, for example, right? That limits my freedom to drive as fast as I want. It kind of takes that freedom away. But I'm willing to accept that takeaway of my freedom, because I know that in a world where everybody drove as fast as they wanted to, it'd be a really dangerous, chaotic world. And so I'm really willing to sacrifice the convenience and freedom of being able to drive at unlimited speeds in order to protect my safety. And you can see here that this is where we're going to run into real tensions, because we're going to end up having to draw a pretty wide line for ourselves that separates what we're willing to surrender in terms of our freedom for the sake of safety, and where we end up crossing that line into an area where we are not willing to surrender our freedoms for whatever safety is being promised. And that's going to be a really difficult line for us to draw, but that's what we're going to focus on in this thought primer. Now, as we're drawing this line, one of the things that we're going to be considering is your body, right? Because when we talk about freedoms, we're talking about freedoms that are associated with your body. What can and cannot be done with and to your body. Okay, there are certain things that you're willing to allow to have happen to your body, and there are certain things that you are not willing to allow to be done to or done with your body. And it raises this question about how much proprietariness do you have over your own body? Do you own your body? Under what conditions can somebody else claim to own your body? Are you willing to surrender some claim of ownership to your body to someone else? And under what conditions? And do you object when someone else steps in and says, without your consent, I have the right to do something with or to your body? Okay? So these questions are going to be at the center of our discussion, because what we're exploring in this thought primer is the ethical philosophy of ethical libertarianism. And ethical libertarianism puts as its foundational value, the thing that matters most, is individual freedom and self-ownership, bodily ownership. Those two things are the most important values to the ethical libertarian and serve as the foundation for all of the moral claims that they make about what kinds of things we can and cannot do, both with our bodies and to the bodies of others.